What's up, everybody? We are back bringing a brand new story of diabetic and athletic success your way today. I was lucky enough to sit down with the UK's first diabetic professional boxer, Muhammad Ali. And yes, you heard that name right. Muhammad won his professional debut back in September of this year and will be back in the ring November 17th in Manchester. Muhammad has his eyes set on a world championship run and wants to inspire those struggling with T1D through his success in the ring. Please enjoy my conversation with Muhammad Ali. Welcome to the Game Plan T1D podcast. I'm your host, Sam Benger. On this podcast, we explore the lives of athletes living with T1D to try to uncover what it is that allows them to excel despite their diabetes. Today on the show, it is my pleasure to be joined by Muhammad Ali. Muhammad, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Sam Benger. I really appreciate you inviting me on your show.
Yeah, man, my pleasure.
Good morning to everyone listening in.
So, in sort of reading about you and doing my background research, I've been so impressed by your resiliency, and especially some of your recent accomplishments. And we're definitely going to be talking about those, but I kind of want to go back and start at the beginning of your journey as a diabetic athlete. You were diagnosed when you were just 4 years old.
Yeah.
So do you recall your diagnosis, and really what was your experience like more broadly kind of growing up as a diabetic?
I remember, being a youngster and I was urinating a lot, going to the toilet, using the toilet a lot because my sugar levels were high and we just didn't know, at home, like my parents didn't know. They were just thinking, he's just poorly. So went and visited my local general practitioner, my doctor, and he said it's nothing to worry about. Ali will be okay. Just eat good food and watch what you're eating and drinking. So we went home, and my legs were in pain. I remember my legs, my calves always in pain, because I was urinating a lot. Whatever I was eating, my sugar levels were going high and I was using the toilet. And one day I suffered from a hypo and the ambulance came home. They took me to the hospital and they said, doctor did his research and, his tests on me. And they said I've got type 1 diabetes. And that's when my journey started as a diabetic.
Wow. So I've also read, and obviously you're a professional boxer now, but I've read that you competed growing up playing soccer, as they call it in your neck of the woods, football, and karate as well. How are you able to balance getting started in competitive sports and handling your T1D? And when was it that boxing sort of first came into the picture?
So what happened was, at the time, the nurses, it's called the NHS over here, our doctors and the hospitals, we call it the NHS. That's who runs, the governing body who runs the doctors, and their company is called the NHS. So what happened was I visited my specialist endocrinologist, and she had educated my mother, and the nurse at the time was called Jo. And she'd always speak to my mum and, educate her more about diabetes, so it'd be controlled, in a better manner. So I'd like to say, to anybody suffering from T1D, if it's a young child, the mother and father should educate themselves, about diabetes, because the more you know about how to overcome diabetes, to control it in a good manner, it'll only result in your child, up as a healthy T1D. So it's very important, people educate themselves about T1D. And my mother and father really worked closely with my nurse, and she educated my mother and father and told them, I'm a youngster, and I watched a lot of soccer at the time. And I asked my father, to take me to the local soccer team. And controlling my diabetes, I was using a blood testing glucose machine at the time. And my mum would monitor my blood sugars all the, every few hours. And, my mother noticed that when I was taking part in sports, my sugar levels were controlled in a good manner. But when I was sat at home being lazy, eating chocolates and sweets and snacking, my sugar levels were rising, which wasn't good for me. And so my mother and father kept me involved in sports, and that's how I've been involved in sports from a young age. From the age of 5, I started taking part in karate. To be honest with you, I didn't really enjoy karate, but my father made me go because firstly it helped control my diabetes in a good manner, and secondly I was being disciplined by the coach, because mixed martial arts consist of being disciplined. And then I started taking part in football, and I didn't like losing. For example, if we'd lose a game, as soccer players, we'd be blaming each other for the loss, for the defeat. I'd say, oh, the goalkeeper didn't play so good, the defender didn't defend against the opposition, the striker didn't score a goal. There'd be too many excuses. And in boxing, I have nobody to blame except myself, for defeat. And that's the reason I took part in football, in soccer, in boxing. Sorry, I meant to say boxing, because I have nobody to blame, for defeat except myself, because it's me and my opposition who are fighting one another. And if anything happens to me, it's all down to myself, because I wasn't either defending myself or I made a mistake. I've only got myself to blame, nobody else. I can't say to my trainer, oh, you didn't help me, you didn't come in the ring and, back me up or something. I can't say none of that. I've just got to accept defeat because it's down to me for not performing so well.
And I think, Mohammed, that's the perfect analogy to diabetes. And I think this is something you've alluded to in other interviews, is just the fact that, an individual sport like boxing, where it's all on you and you have to be accountable for all your actions, trains you to manage your
discipline myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what do you think was the overlap, and how did diabetes prepare you for boxing, and how did boxing prepare you to continue to manage your T1D?
So basically, T1D, I think, goes hand in hand with boxing. Boxing is a weight class sport. So, for example, I box at welterweight, and if I start eating burgers and chips and pizzas, eating foods what are not so good for me, my weight will go up. Because I'm eating so many calories, my weight's only going to increase, and as a result of that, that'll affect my boxing. Because I'll be going up a weight class. I might be small at the weight class, and I'll only be going up because of my fuel consumption. Whereas with my diabetes, if I'm consuming all these calories, my sugar levels won't be controlled so well because I'm eating not the best of foods. So I think boxing and T1D work hand in hand. If I eat healthy foods, my weight class will, I'll stay nice and strong at the weight class, and my diabetes will be controlled in a better manner.
Absolutely.
So I think they both work hand in hand, boxing and T1D.
Certainly. Yeah, I think that's something that we've covered a lot on this podcast, is just different athletes saying that sports is such a perfect tool for crafting and building that sense of discipline that's needed as a diabetic.
Most definitely.
So let's talk about your start in boxing and your amateur career. What was it like for the first time kind of getting in the ring and taking somebody on? What were the emotions, and what was that whole experience like?
I remember I was watching the Olympics at home, and I was absolutely thrived, of the sport. And I was like, this is amazing, this sport. It's a one combat sport, and it's very competitive because two athletes compete against each other after, sacrificing so much, building themselves to the best of the ability they can do. And I was absolutely, thrilled, watching the actual fights and watching boxers celebrate when they were winning. And a bunch of friends from school, we all decided to go to the boxing gym. And I remember smelling the sweat and, seeing people bleed. And, I was absolutely thrilled. I was excited to, step inside the ring. I remember being punched for the first time, and I really liked it. Funny enough, I enjoyed punched in the face, and I got punched in my nose, I remember, for the first time, and my eyes started watering, and I just couldn't understand why I've been punched in the nose. Why are my eyes watering? And I was just really excited. From then onwards, I've never looked back. I've just been stuck in the gym. First of all, you're being disciplined, by the coaches to respect, your parents, respect your elders, respect your teachers. By sport, I think everybody in the world should take part in sport because it teaches respect and honesty. And secondly, you're looking after yourself. I was a big lad when I was a youngster. I was a chubby, overweight lad, and as soon as I got involved in sports like such as boxing, I ended up in good shape. With abs and staying healthy, looking after my T1D. I really encourage people to take part in any sport, be it football, be it soccer, basketball, hockey, be it any sport. They should take part. You make friends, you learn a lot, and you stay healthy, which is the most important thing.
Mm. Yeah, between the discipline and just the physical exertion of sport has so many benefits in terms of maintaining a stable level of blood sugar. But it's funny, you talked about in boxing, you have to be able to take a punch. You mentioned the
Yeah,
first time you got punched, your eyes were watering, and it was kind of a disorienting experience. I think it's, again, another good analogy to something that happened a little bit later in your career where you sort of hit this roadblock in
yeah.
trying to get your professional career going. And I think this is a particularly compelling part of your story. So talk to us about that, really taking that punch of having the British Boxing Board of Control strip your license due to your diabetes, and how were you able to battle to get it back?
Yeah, so what happened was in 2015, I was getting ready for a professional fight. The fight was going to take part on the 12th of December. I remember training so hard, being disciplined, eating the correct foods. I was in the shape of my life, at the time. And next minute, 10 days out from my fight, my license got rejected, by the boxing board. I had passed all my medicals. In boxing, you've got to have the annual medical, which consists of a brain scan, blood tests, and, your body being checked.
Hmm.
And the doctor had passed everything on me and said, good luck, all the best in your fight in 2 weeks. And I said, thank you. And, appreciated the doctor's words. And next minute, I'm driving up for my final sparring session, and my coach, he was like sad at the time, and he said to me, Ali, your fight is being cancelled. Do you know that? And I said, no, I'm not. Why is it being cancelled? And he said, due to you being diabetic. And I was like, no way, but I've just passed my medical, a fortnight ago. And he said, yeah, but the board have rejected your license. I was given no reason whatsoever for my license being rejected. All I was told was because I'm diabetic, at this moment in time, I can't be granted a license. And my manager, Asad Shamim, I phoned him like straight away, and he was absolutely devastated as well. My mother, my father support me so much. My family, absolutely helps me in every step I take in, my life, be it boxing, be it anything I do. They're always supportive of me, and they were absolutely gutted because I've never suffered a problem with my diabetes, or in sport I've never suffered a problem to do with my T1D. And I've had 34 amateur fights. I've been successful. I've won 2 box cups, and I've won a national title for my university. It was something new for me, for my license to be rejected and not granted to me. And I was just, the thing what hurt me a lot was I was given no reason whatsoever. Like for example, they could have said to me, "Oh, your diabetes is not controlled in a good manner." The British Board of Boxing Control could have said that, or they could have said, "You're not healthy, to be a professional boxer." But I was just given like a 3-line reply saying, "At this moment in time, we can't grant you a license," and that was it. I felt alienated. I was depressed at the time, but because I had good people around me, like my manager, my father, my mother, my brother, they motivated me. They said to me, "Look, just keep your head up, and we should, ask the board why you can't be granted a license." And that's when I sat down with my manager, and because I was heartbroken, I felt discriminated. having T1D, if it's healthy, I should be able to do anything I want in life. Spoke to my manager and he said we should challenge the board. And we did our research and we came along, we approached a solicitor, a law firm, and they said this is discrimination, you should get your license. And then you might have heard of an Olympic rower, he was a 4-time Olympic champion, Sir Steve Redgrave from Great Britain. My endocrinologist at the time, he had referred me over to visit Sir Steve Redgrave. But at the time, I was asking for help, seeking advice, from my general practitioner and doctors, asking them, look, can you support me in getting my boxing license? And I was just getting, replies saying, no, we can't help you. Sorry, we're not putting our job at risk. We can't support you. So I was thinking, is it worth me going all the way? Because I live near Manchester and it's 3.5 London. And I was thinking, shall I go up and visit Dr. Gallen? Is it worth it to go and visit him? And my manager said, look, it's only a 3 to 4 hour drive. Just go and visit. What's the worst can happen? You can only get told you're not getting any support. So I thought, I'll take a day out to London. I'll go shopping. The worst can happen is Dr. Gallen will say no to me. And I'll just go out for the day in London and have a good time. So I headed to London, me and my father. We headed to London. We drove down and it took us like 4 hours to get to London. And Dr. Gallen had done his tests on me and he said, you are absolutely fit to box. You are healthy. You should be boxing and I will support you in order to get your license. So my doctor, he had written to the British Board of Boxing Control saying Muhammad Ali is fit to fight. He should be granted a license. And he supported me massively. And then my manager had found solicitors. They'd called JMR solicitors. They had supported me. And we went back and forth with the British Board of Boxing Control several times. So from 2016, we had started writing. And in 2018, May 9th, I was granted my British boxing license. I made history in the United Kingdom.
Wow.
Being the first diabetic to be granted a professional boxing license. You may have heard of Anthony Joshua, the heavyweight champion of the world. We held a peaceful protest outside his fight and thousands of people joined me and supported my cause.
Wow. Yeah, I'm so impressed by it's disappointing that it took so long to get your license back, but at the same time, for you and your support team, your manager, your family, to have the resiliency to keep battling and say, this isn't right. And then going forward, as we'll talk about in a little bit, what you've been able to do since you've gotten your license back is equally impressive. So I wanted to ask, what is your system of management that you use now to be able to excel at a professional level as a boxer? Because from what I was reading, you actually had to go and show the British Boxing Board of Control how you used your CGM because they thought you were going to have to actually take off your gloves and check your finger. What is that system of management that you use right now?
All right, yeah. So at the time, in 2017, when I'd gone to visit Dr. Gallen, the board had said during rounds, you can't, if we want to test your blood sugar levels, we can't take your gloves off and, test your blood sugars and rewrap your gloves, to see your blood glucose levels. This will cause disruption and your opponent may be put off, disturbed, by all this happening. And Dr. Gallen had said there's new technology out where you can get a CGM fitted. So I've got a sensor fitted. It's like a small sensor which is roughly around 2 centimeters diameter and lengthwise. It's on the side of my hip and just on my buttocks. That's where it's placed. And what you do is you scan a monitor over it and you get your blood glucose levels. So During rounds, a doctor comes round and scans the monitor over the sensor and gets my blood glucose levels and sees that my sugar levels are well controlled, during a
Hmm.
fight. So doctors are always, sure that my blood glucose levels are smooth and going well, during fights. So during this my debut, a doctor had come round in between the minute rest in the corners and scan the CGM meter of my sensor
Mm.
and see the blood glucose levels, and they were absolutely happy with them.
Have you ever had to, take a reading during a round and take either insulin or, a sip of
No,
Gatorade or
no,
something like that? It's
no.
always been in control.
Yeah, absolutely perfect.
Wow.
It's because I diet and eat clean food. And during this fight, I remember the doctor came round in between rounds and scanned the monitor, and my sugar levels remained the same throughout the whole fight.
Wow. That's impressive. So I
Yeah,
wanted
so
to move on to what you've been up to recently. Certainly some impressive things. You most recently won your professional debut back on September 15th in Manchester. What were the
yeah.
emotions like after the fight? After finally launching your pro career and getting that initial victory.
I was absolutely amazed because it's not just about myself. It's like the T1D community. We're all like a family.
Mm.
We help one another. I receive messages from people in America, in Germany, all over the world. I receive messages, people, being inspired. And I just wanted to show my T1D family that, if you control your sugar levels in a good manner, absolutely nothing can stop you from doing anything in life.
Mm. Yeah,
You should believe in yourself and achieve what you want to do.
absolutely. Couldn't agree
Chase your
more.
dreams.
Um, so moving forward, you've got another fight in Manchester about a month away on November
Yeah,
17th. Looking
yeah.
forward to that. What do you need to do to continue on this sort of upward trajectory and to continue to have success? Um, and really, what are you doing right now in terms of training? Can you walk us through a typical day in the gym for you?
Yeah. So I got up this morning. Right now it is nearly 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon in the UK. So I got up this morning at 7:30 a.m. I had my breakfast, which consisted of porridge, granola.
Hmm.
I had granola, and then at 10 a.m. I was in the gym, training. We did some sparring today. Um, I did some sparring, warmed up, did some sparring. I cooled down, did a circuit, cooled down, and I headed home. I have my lunch straight after training. I had rice and chicken and vegetables, and then I've come home and now I'm resting, talking to you. And when the conversation finishes with you, I'm gonna head out to the gym and do some strength and conditioning.
So
And after strength conditioning, I'll be resting, chilling out at home. I'll probably watch a movie or just resting, sitting down with family.
mm. So, how often are you actually in the ring sparring versus training, doing strength and conditioning and things outside of the ring for training?
Yeah. So I'll do strength and conditioning twice a week. I'll do running twice a week, two, three times a week actually. Um, I'll be sparring twice a week, and that's it really.
Mm.
On most days, like Monday to Friday, I'll train twice a day. And on these days, I get my recovery. I get a massage. In between sessions, I'll be getting some recovery, like massage, eating good foods, and enjoying my day as well. I'll do a bit of shopping. Go out to the shopping mall, go for a walk, keep my head, fresh.
Mm.
Because mentally you've got to be healthy as well.
Got to have fun with it too.
Yeah, definitely. I can't just be boxing, boxing, boxing. I'll end up bored of the sport. So I like, going out, visiting different cities, going out shopping, to the cinema,
Hmm.
playing a bit of bowling,
Oh yeah,
hanging out with friends.
for
You know,
sure.
you've got to enjoy your day.
So, in addition to all the training you're doing, Mohammed, I wanted to ask about your long-term goals in the sport. I read this amazing quote from you that I saw in a different interview, and you said, "I live by the slogan of never give up. It might not
Yeah.
happen today, but it can happen tomorrow, and I will become a world champion by having faith in that." How do you go about actually living out that mindset, and how do you think that spirit of resiliency and optimism has impacted your diabetes care?
First of all, do you know, when I received my license in May, the motivation and inspiration I received from my T1D family has been absolutely amazing. You know, not just in the United Kingdom, all across the world. The support I've had has been phenomenal. You know, people messaging me saying, "Oh, you're motivating us, you're inspiring us." Do you know, with what you're doing, do you know, is really motivating. So that alone motivates me to do even better, you know, to become a world champion because it just tells me mentally that if I become a world champion, other diabetics, you know, will keep healthy and it'll show them that you don't give up in life. Anything's achievable. And
Mm.
not just for type 1 diabetics, this is for anybody, you know, being challenged by a condition, be it asthma, be it epilepsy, be it any condition out there. People should believe in themselves, and if they really want to do something in life, all they've got to do is challenge the condition and overcome, you know, negativity.
Mm.
Seek help from professionals, and this has absolutely motivated me, you know, to believe in myself, keep being exampled, you know, to the whole world, to show them that as a diabetic I can go on to become a world champion if I control my condition in a good manner.
Hmm. What does it mean to you, Mohammed, to really carry a lot of different people, really the T1D community at large, sort of on your shoulders going into a fight? Obviously, so many people look up to you as an inspiration. What is it like trying to both manage those expectations, but also kind of use that inspiration and motivation as fuel?
I use it in a positive manner. Do you know, my diabetes family motivate me during training. I know that if I put the hard work in during training, I can carry all my diabetic community in a positive manner on the day of my fight. So I don't cut any corners, you know, in training. I
Hmm.
absolutely give it 110% every session, so that I don't fall short of, you know, winning on the day of my fight. Because if I slip up or anything, I'll only be, I feel as though I'll be letting my T1D family down. I've got to
Oh
carry
yeah.
on and keep motivating my T1D family.
Speaking of role models, are there certain role models for you in the sport of boxing and outside of it? Obviously, you have the name connection to the late great Muhammad Ali, one of the best
Yeah,
boxers of all time. How
yeah.
do you have certain role models? Was Muhammad Ali a role model for you?
Yeah, but I wasn't even born, you know, when Muhammad Ali boxed. Funny enough, you know, my name it was just given to me. Nobody in my family boxes. Nobody in my family takes part in boxing.
Hmm.
My name was just given to me, you know, by my father. And you know, right now at this moment in time, I look up to Anthony Joshua. He's a humble man. He gives back, you know, to all us fans. You know, he's just a positive role model, and that's how I want to be. You know, I want to be giving back firstly to my T1D family and inspiring all people in the future to show that, you know, if you ever challenge, I believe that diabetes is not an illness, it's a condition. And my body is challenging me, you know, with the condition of diabetes. And I'm overcoming the challenge, you know, by controlling my diabetes in a good manner. And I want to show and give back and motivate and inspire, you know, millions of people around the world to show them that you should be positive about your challenge. Don't be negative. And I definitely want to be following, what Anthony Joshua is doing, because in the United Kingdom, we all look up to Anthony Joshua because he's a fantastic role model. He's a humble human being.
It's impressive, and role models need role models as well.
Yeah.
And in starting to sort of wrap up, I'd like to ask this common question to all of our guests. And if you could send a message to a struggling diabetic out there right now, perhaps they were just diagnosed, or maybe they're just going through a tough time in their diabetes management right now, what would your message be to that struggling individual, and why?
My message would be, first of all, educate yourself more about diabetes. Seek help, from your local doctors, your private consultants. Seek help and learn about diabetes. There's many ways of overcoming hurdles, and if your parents are struggling to understand about diabetes, get them help, from your private consultants and doctors. Seek help from the professionals, because they're out there to help us, because it's very important how to control your condition. And if you ever need any support by myself, you can contact me on Twitter or any of my social networks by the name of Muhammad. On Twitter, I am Muhammad Ali Box. So that's MUHAMMAD Ali ALI and then Box BOX. And on Instagram, I'm Muhammad Ali Boxing 93. Facebook, Muhammad Ali. Don't be shy for asking any help. You're only asking for advice on how to better yourself, and that's very impressive. If you're seeking advice on how to overcome a problem.
Well, Muhammad, thank you so much for being so willing to give back to the T1D community, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and best of luck in your upcoming fight November 17th. We'll all be watching and rooting for you, and we can't wait to see what's next for you. Thank you again.
Thank you. I really appreciate you, inviting me on your show, and please do support me and follow my journey. Add me on my social networks, and let's all get talking. And T1D family, I'd like to, thank you guys for listening in, onto the show, and keep supporting this great show of Sam Benjers. He's a great man, doing great work for us type 1 diabetics. Thank you, Sam, for your help and support. My name is Muhammad Ali, UK's first type 1 diabetic professional boxer, and I have a game plan.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Game Plan T1D podcast. For related content, please visit www.gameplant1d.com or follow us on social media @GamePlanT1D. Find your game plan.